We're here in the Agriland tent on day 3 of Ploughing 2024 in Ratheniska in County Laois, and I'm joined today in the Agriland tent by Taoiseach Simon Harris. Taoiseach, thank you very much for joining us today. You're a very busy man today. You're thronged with support outside here on the main thoroughfare right beside the NPA headquarters in Ratheniska. But firstly, can I ask you a few questions? Please. Because we have you here, we're asking these on behalf of farmers around the country. And I'll get straight to the point. Let's talk about finances here. So firstly, farmers and the farming community in Ireland are expecting a lot in this budget coming up. They are expecting a lot of you, and they're expecting a lot of your government partners and your party. What can they expect in the next budget 2025 when they're being asked to do so much in terms of rules and regulations and adhering to new schemes, which they are very enthusiastic about joining? And your colleague, Minister Charlie McConalogue, I'm sure, has filled you in various challenges and issues with the likes of Acre Scheme and so on. So what will be in budget 2025 to tangibly support farmers?
Well, look, thank you very much for having me here today, and it's great to be back at the Ploughing for a second day, and great to have a chance to engage with farmers. We had a really good roundtable with all farming organisations in government buildings about a week ago, and I've been travelling around to agricultural shows across the summer, and I'm very conscious as we approach the budget, which will be on Tuesday week, that farmers are struggling financially. That the cost of living crisis is real, and it's real for farmers, and that a lot has come at farmers, and that there's maybe been a lectury tone in terms of farmers. You must do this, you must do that. Farmers aren't against change, but they do want to know that they're going to be financially supported. So I'm not going to reveal the budget here today, unfortunately perhaps, but there are rules around that. But what we are going to do is make sure we do put financial supports in place for the various sectors across agriculture. We're of course going to do that. What we're also going to do though is make sure that farmers will benefit from some of the other measures that we intend to bring in general. So this budget will see reductions in taxation. This budget will see a continuation of reliefs. And this budget will also look at other ways we can practically help people with the cost of living. One area I feel very strongly about, a lot of farming families have raised this with me, the cost of sending a child to college. So I want to see if we can reduce the cost of education, the cost of going to college fees as well. More broadly though, because this is my first budget as Taoiseach, I do want this to be the start of a conversation we have about how we sustain the family farm into the future. And I'm very clear that if I'm Taoiseach as we go into the Common Agricultural Policy negotiations, that budget's going to need to be expanded. And if Europe and the government want farmers to do new things, Europe and the government are going to have to pay farmers to do new things. And that's going to have to be a key part of the next CAP.
Well, some of that support then, can that support come from the Apple funding, for example? We know it can't be used for day-to-day use, but it can be for improvements within the country. And certainly getting farmers to farm more sustainably and environmentally friendly, for example, that could be considered improvement.
Well, it's kind of like an apple a day. It's a whole new meaning now. To everybody has a new idea what to do with the Apple funding, and as you rightly say, it can only be spent once. But I'm very clear on what the Apple funding should be spent on. It should be spent on investing in our infrastructure. And from a farming point of view, I think as we work to hold the nitrates derogation, and that is absolutely essential, it's a national economic asset, we have to be able to show Europe and our own people that we're making progress with water quality. So there aren't decisions yet, but I'll tell you where my head's at. I want to see one-off windfall funding that we have, if you want to call it Apple, or indeed from the sale of bank shares or the likes. I want to see it pumped into water, electricity on the grid, and housing. And I think if we do those 3 areas, I think we'll have put that money to good use. But I also think we'll have helped to support farming, support the model of farming, and I think it'll help retain the nitrates derogation.
Yeah, the nitrates derogation, the European Commission delegation is currently in the country. They're here since Monday. We had the commissioner last year. But there are many people that are not optimistic that we're going to hold on to that derogation, because as we all know, the European Commission's flexibility, shall we say, around timings is not perhaps in line with farmers wanting to demonstrate trial results of water quality, which reasonably enough do take time to come to conclusions on. So there seems to be that gap. Are you in any ways getting any indication from your colleagues in Europe that there might be a consideration of flexibility on that?
So we're going to fight to retain the nitrates derogation. We're going to need to have a government that is going to fight to retain the nitrates derogation. This one will. And when we have an election, it's very important that the people we have around tables will fight for that and understand farming and understand the importance of this issue as well, because these are political decisions that will get made at a European level. And Europe isn't something over there. We're in Europe. We are Europe. We are the 4th largest contributor per head of capita to the European budget. So we don't walk into the room with our head down asking people nicely. We walk in with our head proudly high, saying this is a country that contributes significantly to the European budget. And we understand that different member states have different ways of providing their industry. In Ireland, our farming model needs the nitrates derogation. Now, I've said this to farming organisations. I say it here, I say it publicly, I say it privately. We can't just go in and say the nitrates derogation is great, we want to keep it. We do have to show people the roadmap forward in terms of water quality, because we do need to improve water quality. And that's where I think being able to show, alongside the argument for the derogation, being able to show a sustained multi-annual programme of investment in water quality using resources that are now at our disposal could be really, really helpful. And that has to be the way. The Minister for Agriculture has now set up a structure to bring everybody together, and as Taoiseach, I'll support that absolutely fully. We need farming organisations around the table, the state around the table, industry around the table, and that's exactly what we're going to do. But I'm optimistic here. We're going to fight to retain the nitrates derogation.
Taoiseach, I know you're under time pressure here, but I just want to reference a survey that Agriland carried out in recent days with ICMSA, and we got opinions research to do this survey. Now, unlike other surveys, which might be national polls based on very large cohorts, we were quite targeted and specific in our survey. So what little people don't know is how targeted this was. This was an actual, very tangible, real reflection of decision-maker farmers in the cohort of 127,000 farm enterprises we have in this country. So it's actually very, very reflective of the farming industry. And it found, I'm sure you know, positively enough, a very high percentage of popularity for first preference votes for Fine Gael on 27, but if you take out the undecideds or the people who won't vote, that's up to 33%. Your coalition partners, Fianna Fáil, very, very low this time around in the survey. And I suppose when it comes to the supports and when you go for general election again, the popularity is there. You have said the general election won't be held until next spring. With all due respect, with any people in politics that we've been speaking to in recent weeks, there's no one else who seems to be of that mind. However, you are the Taoiseach, so we'll take your word for it. But whether it's in a few weeks' time or in a few months' time, the popularity has shown that farmers are behind you at the moment in terms of the survey that we did. What are you going to do to reassure them? Because they will have questions to ask of you and all your colleagues when you go around to doorsteps, whether in a month's time or 3 months' time.
No, bring it on. I mean, I expect that. I want the next general election to be about ideas. I think we went through a little period here in this country where politics became about diagnosing the problem. So it became like, who was best at describing the challenges that Ireland faced? What I found now, the closer you get to an election, is people don't want idle pub chat. They want to know what are you going to do about it. And I think that's where some of our political opponents are coming a little bit unstuck. It's easy to kind of talk down the country. It's easy to talk down farming. Much harder to actually say, hang on a second, how are we going to fix these issues? How are we going to make sure that our planet, which is on fire, can be saved and the climate emergency can be addressed, and we can also continue to produce food? So I relish the prospect of talking to farmers, talking with farmers. But you know what? I hope I haven't spent the summer talking to farmers. I have spent the summer listening to farmers. I said when I became leader of my party, I wanted to reconnect our party. I said I wanted to travel around the country. I went to every agriculture show I could possibly find, big, large, in between, and I listened. And what I heard from farmers is they're feeling the pressure. They're feeling the pressure mentally as well, because every day they get out of bed and turn on the radio or pick up a newspaper, excluding Agriland and looking at Agriland, I'm sure, online. Every time they're hearing people talking down their industry. We haven't done that with any other part of the Irish economy. We don't tell airlines they can't fly aeroplanes. We don't tell big businesses they can't continue to operate. We tell them we need to work to change. That's the same. There's been too much beaten up on farmers over the last while. And what I'm telling them is this, and what I'll tell them during the general election and right after the general election if I'm lucky enough to continue. In me, they will have someone as Taoiseach who gets it in terms of the importance of this sector to the Irish economy and the importance of this sector to towns and villages right across our country. Farming, the agri-food industry, is what stays in the bad times. It's what's here in the good times and the bad times. I have their back. I take nothing for granted. I'm extraordinarily grateful to people for giving me a chance. And all I would say is this. Many people have had many chances. Many people have had many chances for many, many years. This will be my first election.
Including your party has for the last number of years.
My party has, but I'm Taoiseach since April. I'm the Taoiseach since April. I'll be standing at a leaders' debate, and it'll be my first leaders' debate. And I'm asking the people of Ireland to give me a chance, to give me a mandate to be their Taoiseach. And I promise you, I'll continue this energy, and I'll continue to listen, and I'll continue to work with you to come up with constructive solutions.
Thank you, Taoiseach. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for. Thank you, Taoiseach Simon Harris, for joining us. Thank you so much, the National